In the 1980s, my husband's son, who was an old teenager, a late teenager, and I started leading safaris in the summer to Kenya. It was a country that we had lived in, and we organized this trip through a school of social work. The people who were going on the trip with us were social workers for the most part, and others who had always been interested in going to Kenya. And the trip was a combination of meeting with African social workers and then going on safari for many days. When we arrived in Nairobi, we found out from the people who were handling the trip on the ground that the person who had handled the trip and made all the bookings in the U.S. had gotten into some trouble, and that a number of the people in the group, of which there were about 35, did not have seats on an airplane at the end of our trip to get back to the U.S. They were confident that they would be able to straighten it out by the end of the safari, which was 2 weeks later. Our decision then was, do we tell the people in the group that there is this problem? There was nothing at that time that they could do about it, because the next day we were leaving for safari and there was no way for them to phone anybody. There were no cell phones. There was just no way for them to communicate with anyone. And we had to decide whether this was something that they should know before we left. The three of us talked about it for quite a while and came to the decision that we would not tell people, that we felt that the people on the ground who we knew in Nairobi, knew from many years ago, could handle it. They said that they would, and that we didn't want to spoil people's trip. We felt that if people felt that they weren't going to be getting out of the country when they got to the end of the trip, they would be anxious, and it would spoil this, for many of them, what was a once-in-a-lifetime journey. We didn't tell them. We went on safari, we came back to Nairobi, and we found out that some of it had been straightened out, but there still were about 8 people who didn't have seats. Well, we knew we would stay behind, but then we had to do a triage who really needed to go. And some people were very angry that we hadn't told them. And that was the crux of the problem. Like, should we have told them? And I'm still, many years later, I still wonder about it. Did we treat them like children by not telling them? Should we have trusted that they could have done something? Maybe we should have delayed going on safari for a day so people could have made phone calls and done whatever they needed to do. Perhaps there were other ways to handle it. So even now, I'm just not sure if we did it the best way that we could have, but we certainly had good intentions.